Hare Krishna. Nadiya Nagari. Nadiya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Nadiya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Nadiya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire. Jagannath Sutta Mahaprabhu Vishwambara Maya Purusha Shinavadipa Sutaka Shachi Sutta Gaura Harini Mai Sundar Radha Bhava Kanti Achadita Nantaba Namananda Chapala Balaka Matri Bhakta Ramananda Tarki Katu Kandurat Nariya Nagare Nitai. Everyone. Chegaire Nariya Nagare Nitai Chegaire. Gotta change the slides, eh? Vidyarthi Udupachara Dvarera Mohan Tartika Sarvasya Gramya Balika Kriya Lakshmi Parti Bodha Datta Udanta Balaka Shishachira Pati Putra Shoka Nibaraka Lakshmi Pati Purva Desha Sarva Klesha Hara Digvijay Darpa Hari Vishnu Priya Swami Nariya Nagari Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Nariya Nagari Nitai Niche Niche Arya Dharma Pala Pitra Gaya Pinda Daka Puri Shishya Madhvacharya Sampradaya Paka Krishna Namo Mata Krishna Tattva Gyapaka Nam Sankirtana Yoga Dharma Pravartaka Advaita Mahavas Shivasa Grihada Nityananda Prana Gadadhara Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Antardhipa Shashadhara Simanta Vijaya Gautama Vihara Madhya Dvipa Virashraya Kola Dvipa Pati Ritu Dvipa Maheshwara Shanu Moja Madhura Dvipera Ishwara Navakanda Ranganatha Jana Vijivara Jagai Marayati Buddha Tadana Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Nariya Nagare Nitai Niche Niche Nagaram Kirtana Sikhan Kaji Udarana Shivadhana Prasharakam Bhaktati Harana Narayani Kripa Sindhu Jivera Niyataka Adama Parduya Dandi Bhakta Dosha Hanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chandra Bharati Tarana Parivrata Shiromani Utkala Pavana Nariya Nagari Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Nariya Nagari Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Ambulinga Bhuvanisha Kompatisha Pati Kirshora Gopal Darshaya Sukiyati Nirnandi Sanyasi Sarva Bhoma Kripaya Swananda Aswadami Sarva Suprashraya Purata Sundara Vasudeva Tranakarta Ramananda Sakha Bharta Gula Klesha Harita Nariya Nagari Nitai Niche Niche Gaire Nariya Nagari Gai. Bodha Jain Mayavadi Kutarta Kandana Dakshina Pavana Bhakti Grantha Uttarana Alala Darshani Rattagranartha Gajapati Prana Devananda Uttaraka Kuliya Prakashe Dushka Pradurya Prana Rupa Sanatana Bandhu Sarva Jiva Prana Narayana Nitai Niche Niche Gare Narayana Nitai Niche Niche Vrindavananda Muti Balavadra Sanghi Yavana Udari Bhattavala Phiraramhi Yashi Vasi Sanyasi Udari Premadata Markata Vairagi Dandi Achandala Bhaktera Gora Bhakkari Bhakta Pranadhana Haridas Raghunath Swarupa Jiva Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gare Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gare Bhakati Vito Tar Podharanga Pare Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gare Narayana Gare Nitai Niche Niche Gare. Oh, in the towns and villages of Nadia, Lord Nityananda ecstatically dances and sings these names of Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya is the beloved son of Jagannath Mishra. He is Mahaprabhu, the great master, the maintainer of the whole world. He is the shining moon of Mayapur and the source of all nectar for the land of Navadvip. He is the beloved son of Shachimata and is Lord Hari with a fair golden complexion. As he was born under a neem tree, he was called Nimai Sundara, beautiful Nimai. He is covered by the sentiment and luster of Srimati Radharani, and he is the best of all dancers. He becomes restless upon hearing the holy names of Lord Hari. In his boyhood pastimes, he is swift and agile, and is devoted to his mother. He displays the entire universe within his mouth. He is a great logician and is fond of joking and playing pranks. Kartal's a little slow. He is the moon among scholarly students, and he bewildered two thieves who tried to steal his jewels when he was a small child. He is the cynosure of all philosophers, and he teased and joked with the village girls of Nadia. He is the giver of blessings to Lakshmi Priya, his first wife. He is very mischievous as a child, and is the dispeller of the grief Sachimata felt after losing her husband Jagannath and first son Vishwarupa. He is the Lord husband of Lakshmi Priya. By his Sankirtan movement, he moved all the distress of East Bengal. He eradicated the pride of the conquering Pandit named Keshava Kashmiri, and is the beloved Lord of Vishnu Priya, his second wife. He is the preserver of Sanatan Dharma and the giver of the Pinda oblation at the holy town of Gaya after the disappearance of his father, Jagannath Mishra. He became the disciple of Ishvarapuri and is the protector of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. He became madly intoxicated by tasting the holy name of Krishna and is the professor of the science of Krishna consciousness. Thus he inaugurated the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan. He is the friend of Advaita Acharya, the treasurer of Srivas Thakur's home, the life and soul of Nityananda Prabhu, and the very source of life for Gadadhar Pandit. He is the moon of Antardvip and the triumph of Simantadvip. He enjoys wandering and frolicking on the island of Godruma, and is the shelter of pastimes in Madhyadvip. He is the lord of Koladvip, the great controller of Ritudvip, and the creator of Janudvip, Mojadrumadvip, and Rudradvip. He is thus the Supreme Lord of the 9 islands of Navadvip, which serves as the stage for his wonderful pastimes. He is the life of the river Ganga and the deliverer of all sorts of rogues and rascals, beginning with Jagai and Madai. He is the lion of the village kirtans and the deliverer of Chandkazi. He is the preacher of the pure holy name and the remover of the distresses of his devotees. He is the ocean of mercy for Narayani, the mother of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, and is the regulator of all souls. He is the chastiser of the fallen students who criticize his chanting of Gopi Gopi, and is the destroyer of the sins of his devotees. He was initiated into sannyas with the name of Śrī Caitanya, and he is beautiful like the moon. He delivered his sannyas guru Keshava Parati, is himself the crest jewel of all wandering renunciates, and is the savior of the region of Orissa. He is the master of Lord Shiva, who is known in 3 different Shaiva Tirthas as Ambulingam, Bhuvaneshwar, and Kopateshwar, visited by Lord Chaitanya on his way to Jagannath Puri. As a sannyasi, he rejoiced at the sight of the risen deities Kirchor Gopinath and Shakshi Gopal. He became a sannyasi without a danda due to Lord Nityananda's breaking it in 3 parts and throwing it in the Pargi river, and is full of mercy for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He is ecstatic by tasting the bliss of himself in the form of Krishna, and he is the resting place of the universe, of all universal happiness. He is beautiful like molten gold, and he delivered the leper Vasudeva. He is the intimate friend of Ramananda Roy and the remover of all miseries from the family of Yankatabhata. He is the refuter of the atheist arguments of the Buddhists, Jains, and Mayavadis. He is the savior of South India, and he has brought to light the 2 devotional literatures, Krishna Karnamrita and Brahma Samhita. He became ecstatic at the sight of the deity Alalnath, and he danced in front of the Jagannath cart during the Rath Yatra festival. He delivered Gajapati Prataparudra and was the savior of Devananda Pandit. By his appearance at Kulia, he delivered the ill-behaved student community there. He is the friend of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and the life of all souls. He is the personification of bliss in the transcendental realm of Vrindavan, and he is the companion and friend of Balabhadra Bhattacharya. On his return from Vrindavan, he delivered many Mohammedans, and he is very fond of intimate exchanges with Balabhadra. He delivered the Mayavadi sannyasis of Kashi, and he is the bestower of love of God. He is the chastiser of the false renunciates called Markata Vairagis for being like monkeys. And he is the savior of everyone, down to the lowest class of men. He is the glorifier of his devotees, and is the treasured wealth of their lives. He is the very life of such devotees as Haridas Thakur, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Swarup Damodar. Oh, in the towns and villages of Nadia, Lord Nityananda ecstatically dances and sings these names of Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and Bhakti Vinod falls down at his reddish lotus feet. Nadia nagare nitai nite niche gaire. Nadia nagare nitai niche niche gaire. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Niche, Niche, Gaire. Let's do the Mangalacharna 1, but we'll add the nectar verses, please. And maybe a few others. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Śrī Caitanya-Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Kadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvajutam Harijana Santam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Nadaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Purnamani Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Put in the nectar verses now. Parhapidam Nataparavapu Karyo Karnikaram. Everyone. Vibradvasa Kanaka Kapisham Vaichayam Shamalam Randran Virno Radhara Sudhaya Nayam Govindai Vrindaranyam Swapadaramaṇa Vamshakita Kirti Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviriniditam Kalmashabham Shravana Mangalam Shrimadatatam Puvagranantiye Puridajana Krishna Kirtana Kana Naitana Kala Ayojani Brajya Sarvakta Valihamsa Chakra Madhuka Sheni Viharaspadam Karnanandikaladvanir Vahatune Chivamaru Prangane Śrī Caitanya-Dvayani Vedavadasa Līlā Suvasvani. Helo Kunitakedaya Vishadaya Rolila Ramodaya Shamyach Chastra Viva Sadaya Chikarpito Madaya Shashvat Bhakti Vinodaya Samadaya Madhurya Maryadaya Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta supposed to be one more, no? Shamalangi. Shri Krishna Shamane Parikshita Bhava Vaisesika Kirtane Pralada Smarane Tarangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pujane Akrura Svabhibandhane Kapipate Daseta Sakyarjuna Sarva Swadmani Vedane Bhavirabu Krishna Tiresham Prana Mani Vedane Valiravu Krishna Tiresham Para Nitai Namine Che Namirhate Shalamuya Nitai Namine Che Namirhate Shalamuya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Violin
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Go Premanande
Hari Bo.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo
Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari
from the Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta. We're staying on Jambulas because we could sing it. In the spiritual world, every word is a song. Every gate is a dance. The flute is the favorite attendant. All living entities are enjoyable and tasty. Unlimited milk cows. Śrī Caitanya prasadena tadrupasya virnayam balopi kurute shastram Krishna Vraja Vilasana. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Raj, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. Purport: one can ascertain the meaning of the Sanskrit shloka only when one is endowed with the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Sri Krishna, being the absolute personality of Godhead, cannot be exposed to the mundane instruments of vision. He reserves the right not to be exposed by the intellectual feats of non-devotees. Notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Vidya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Sri Advaita Acharya. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Chaturta shlokera arto kali vishwaran Panchama shlokera arta shuna bhaktagan. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I have described the meaning of the fourth verse. Now, O devotees, kindly hear the explanation of the fifth verse. Lashokera arto karite prakash arta lagaite age gai abas. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just to explain the original verse, I shall first suggest its meaning. Chatur shlokera arto ekaila sar premanam pachariti avatar. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I've given the essential meaning of the fourth verse. This incarnation, Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu descends to propagate the chanting of the holy name and spread love of God. Satya hetu kindu eho bariranga ar ak hato shina pache ataranga. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Although this is true, this is but the external reason for the Lord's incarnation. Please hear one other reason, the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. Purport: in the 3rd chapter, 4th verse, it has been clearly said that Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to distribute love of Krishna and the chanting of his transcendental holy name, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That was the secondary purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. The real reason is different, as we shall see in this chapter. Purvajena Pittavir Bhara Haribare Krishna Avatirna Hoila Shastre Tre Prachare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The scriptures proclaim that Lord Krishna previously descended to take away the burden of the earth. Swayam Bhagavatera Karma Nahi Bharharana Stiti Karta Vishnu Karimta Japalana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To take away this burden, however, is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The maintainer, Lord Vishnu, is the one who protects the universe. Kintu Krishnara Jai Hoy Avatar Kal Bharharana Kale Tate Hale Nishtara. Again. Kintu Krishnara Jai Hoy Avatar Kal Bharharana Kale Tate Hoy La Nishala. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. But the time to lift the burden of the world mixed with the time for Lord Krishna's incarnation. Purport. We have information from the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears at particular intervals to adjust a time-worn spiritual culture. Lord Shri Krishna appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga to regenerate the spiritual culture of human society and also to manifest his transcendental pastimes. Vishnu is the authorized Lord who maintains the created cosmos, and he is also the principal deity who makes adjustments when there is improper administration in the cosmic creation. But Shri Krishna, being the primeval Lord, appears not in order to make such administrative adjustments, but only to exhibit his transcendental pastimes and thus attract the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. However, the time for administrative rectification and the time for Lord Shri Krishna's appearance coincided at the end of the last Dwapara Yuga. Therefore, when Shri Krishna appeared, Vishnu, the Lord of Maintenance, merged with him because all the plenary portions and parts of the Absolute Personality of Godhead merged with him during his appearance. Purna Bhagavan Avatari Jai Kale Adashab Avatar Tate Asinile. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. When the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, all other incarnations of the Lord meet together within him. Narayana Chaturvyuha Matsyadya Avatara Juga Manvantara Tara Jata Ache Tara Tara Shabe Ase Krishna Ange Hoya Avatirna Ache Avatara Krishna Bhagavan Purna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Lord Narayan, the four primary expansions, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, Matsya, and the other Lila incarnations, the Yuga avatars, the Manvantar incarnations, and as many other incarnations as there are, all descended in the body of Lord Krishna. In this way, the complete Supreme Godhead, Lord Krishna himself, appears. A type of Vishnu, Takana Krishnara Sharira, Vishnu Dware Kare Krishna, Asura Sanghare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. At that time, therefore, Lord Vishnu is present in the body of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna kills the demons through him. Priya Kishore, play us a little song. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Anushanga karma asura marana, je lagi avatar, pahe se mula karana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Thus the killing of the demons is but secondary work. I shall now speak of the main reason for the Lord's incarnation. Srivatsa, sing it.
Prema rasa niryas karite aswadhana, raga marga bhakti loke karite pracharan. Rasika shekhara Krishna parama karuna, ei dui hetu hoite vichara udgama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. The Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. The Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellow of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. Thus he is known as supremely jubilant and is the most merciful of all. Purport. During the period of Lord Krishna's appearance, the killing of asuras or non-believers such as Kamsa and Jarasandha was done by Vishnu, who is within the person of Sri Krishna. Such apparent killing by Lord Sri Krishna took place as a matter of course and was an incidental activity for him. But the real purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes of Vrajabhumi, thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. These reciprocal exchanges of mellows are called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord in transcendental rapture. Lord Sri Krishna wants to make known to all the conditioned souls that he is more attracted by Raga Bhakti than Vidhi Bhakti, or devotional service under scheduled regulations. It is said in the Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7, Raso Vaisaha, Raso Vaisaha, Raso Vaisaha, Raso Vaisaha. The absolute truth is the reservoir for all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. He is also ceaselessly merciful, and he wants to bestow upon us this privilege of Raga Bhakti. Thus he appeared by his own internal energy. He was not forced to appear by any extraneous force. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shivatsa.
Aishwarya Ganite Saba Jagata Mishrita Aishwarya Shitila Preme Nahi Mora Prita
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Lord Krishna thought, all the universe is filled with the conception of my majesty. But love weakened by that sense of majesty does not satisfy me. Amare Ishvara Mani Apanake Hina Tad Premi Vasha Amina Ayodhina. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, If one regards me as the Supreme Lord and himself as a subordinate, I do not become subservient to his love, nor can it control me. Srivatsa.
Amaketaye bhakta bhajaye bhave tarase se bhave bhajiye mara swabhave.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. In whatever transcendental mellow my devotee worships me, I reciprocate with him. That is my natural behavior. Purport. The Lord, by his inherent nature, reveals himself before his devotees according to their inherent devotional service. The Vrindavan pastimes demonstrated that although generally people worship God with reverence, the Lord is more pleased when a devotee thinks of him as his pet son, personal friend, or most dear fiancé, and renders service unto him with such natural affection. The Lord becomes a subordinate object of love in such transcendental relationships. Such pure love of Godhead is unadulterated by any tinge of superfluous, non-devotional desires, and is not mixed with any sort of fruitive action or empiric philosophical speculation. It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from all material affection. Avantika suggests a good tune that fits in with the other one for the Sanskrit verses. Well done. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In whatever way my devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O Suniprata. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna affirms that formerly, some 120 million years before the Battle of Kurukshetra, he explained the mystic philosophy of the Gita to the sun god. The message was received through the chain of disciplic succession, but in course of time, the chain being broken, somehow or other, Lord Sri Krishna appeared again and taught Arjuna the truths of the Bhagavad Gita. At that time, the Lord spoke this verse, Bhagavad Gita 4:11, to his friend Arjuna. More Bhuta, more Saka, more Pranapati, Eva Vijay, Mori Karashita Bhakti, Apanate Badamane, Amare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one cherishes pure loving devotion to me, thinking of me as his son, his friend, or his beloved, regarding himself as great and considering me his equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. In the Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, 3 kinds of devotional service are described, namely Bhakti, ordinary devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service, and Vidha Bhakti, mixed devotional service. When devotional service is executed with some material purpose, involving fruitive activities, mental speculations, or mystic yoga, it is called mixed or adulterated devotional service. Besides Bhakti Yoga, the Bhagavad Gita also describes Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. Yoga means linking with the Supreme Lord, which is possible only through devotion. Fruitive activities ending in devotional service. Philosophical speculation ending in devotional service. And the practice of mysticism ending in devotional service are known respectively as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. But such devotional service is adulterated by 3 kinds of material activities. For those grossly engaged in identifying the body as a self, pious activity or Karma Yoga is recommended. For those who identify the mind with the self, philosophical speculation or Jnana Yoga is recommended. But devotees standing on the spiritual platform have no need of such material conceptions of adulterated devotion. Adulterated devotional service does not directly aim for love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, service performed strictly in conformity with the revealed scriptures is better than such a Vidha Bhakti, because it is free from all kinds of material contamination. It is executed in Krishna consciousness solely to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are spontaneously devoted to the Lord and have no aims for material gain are called attracted devotees. They are spontaneously attracted to the service of the Lord, and they follow in the footsteps of self-realized souls. Their pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, manifested from pure love of Godhead, surpasses the regulative principles of the authoritative scriptures. Sometimes loving ecstasy transcends regulative principles. Such ecstasy, however, is completely on the spiritual platform and cannot be imitated. The regulative principles help ordinary devotees rise to the stage of perfect love of Godhead. Pure love for Krishna is the perfection of pure devotion, and pure devotional service is identical with spontaneous devotional service. Flawless execution of regulative principles is exhibited in the Vaikuntha planets. By strictly executing these principles, one can be elevated to the Vaikuntha planets, but spontaneous, pure, loving service is found in Krishna Loka alone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, come to the other side and just take a few questions. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Question from Aditya, who says, many times it is said that it is easy to come in bhakti, but it is very difficult to stay throughout the remainder of our lives. What is one important quality in devotees who are able to stay forever? Just so I know, where is it said many times that it's easy to come in but hard to stay? Who said in many times? Anyone? Aditya, can you say?
Prabhupada.
Huh?
Srila Prabhupada.
Where?
Srila Prabhupada.
Where did he say it?
In many of his lectures, Maharaj.
Deep within all his lectures. Okay. Well, if you can find some of those citations, then I can comment on them. But in general, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu commented that Trinadapi Sunichena Toror Api Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Then in order to keep doing your bhajan, Kirtaniya Sadahari, always doing, you should remain humble. And you should also show respect to others. By learning to show respect to others and not take any respect for yourself, you stay in this position where the holy name is easy to chant. And in the Gita, Krishna says, Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvanver vimukta sukadukha samjaya gachantya muda paramavyayam tat. That you should practice not having any false ego, and you should give up false association with those who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And if you practice with good association and without being full of false prestige, then it's easy to stay on the path of devotional service throughout one's lifetime. Also keep in mind that it's better to one way or another stay engaged in Krishna consciousness, no matter what your situation is. No matter what happens, always keep the vibration going. Because oftentimes devotees think, well, because I can't do it perfectly, I can't do it like others I perceive are doing it, therefore I won't do it at all. But we should keep going, keep the vibration going, whatever way we can do right now. And as we do that, going from one era in our life to the next, we'll suddenly find that we've run out the clock on the field. Just stay on the field and don't get off. No matter what anybody tells you, stay on the field and keep doing it. Okay, another question from Sri Madhava Mahotsava Prabhu, who says, verse 16 of this chapter says that the primary reason Krishna comes is devotional service in rapture, and secondary reason is killing the demons. Is this why Sahaji's focus on Lord Krishna's dealing with the gopis and say Krishna's killing Putana or on the battlefield? Let's see. Is this why Sahaja's focus on Lord Krishna's dealing with the gopis and say Krishna killing Putana or on the battlefield with Arjuna instead of, you mean? Sahajas have this false idea that only Krishna's pastimes with the gopis are beneficial, that the pastimes of Krishna on the battlefield Kurukshetra are something inferior. This is one of the ways that they reason, and therefore they eschew the pastimes of Krishna on the battlefield Kurukshetra and only concentrate on particular pastimes. However, we find that pure devotees, like the gopis themselves, are fascinated by the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. In fact, they read them again and again. They hear about Dhruva Maharaj and they cry sometimes, or Prahlad Maharaj, that these 5-year-old pure devotees went through so much hardship and they never wavered in their devotional service. So we could see that this is an artificial idea, that is just saying one is high, one is low, and focusing in one area but not in the other. Even as devotees advance in devotional service, they find the basic concepts in the Bhagavad Gita, like you're not your body, to be more and more edifying and rapturous as well. So it's a systemic experience that all Krishna Katha becomes more and more nectarian as one advances in devotional service. Although it is true, as Prabhupada is pointing out here, that one has or develops a sense of a particular attraction for Krishna in a particular way. But this comes with practice and by Krishna's mercy, and it's not to be imitated or artificially applied. Paraphrase from Aparagarangi. Absolute truth is a reservoir for all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. Nicely done. Very good one. Shringara Ras, Devidasi has a question. When our material desires are unfulfilled, it leads to anger. What is the result of unfulfilled spiritual desires? Spiritual desires, even if they're unfulfilled, if one has them, are transcendental. Therefore, the effect is completely different. Prabhupada writes in a letter that if you desire pure devotional service, there's no difference between desiring pure devotional service and pure devotional service. It's the same. So whereas material desires have this dichotomy that you have them and then you can't fulfill them because they're incompatible with our nature. When we have devotional desires, just having them gives a sense of fulfillment. Bhakti parishanubhava virakte anyata traishatrika ekakala prapadya manase yatashna tastus tushti pushti shuddha payonugasam. It's like eating food. Every bite that you take, you start to feel nourishment, satisfaction in your hunger goes away. And even in the very beginning of devotional service, Rupa Goswami writes this in the Nectar Devotion. As you begin devotional service, there are 6 natural effects. One is that you feel yourself affected by transcendental pleasure, and you feel that you've started a life of auspiciousness. And then there are 4 more, but those first 2 are experienced by those who are neophytes, and they just take to the process of devotional service. So if you have some devotional desire, first of all, know that in due course of time, it will be fulfilled, because Krishna is fulfilling everyone's desire since his time immemorial anyway. Saparya gachukram akayamavranam asnaviram shuram apapavidam kaviramanishi paribhu swayambur yatatyatatortan viradashasvatibhya samabhyaha. He's a self-sufficient philosopher who's been fulfilling everyone's desires since a time immemorial. So if you have a spiritual desire, he'll definitely fulfill it in due course of time. So know that for certain. And we know also from the Bhagavatam that even if you have a material desire or a desire that is not perfectly aligned, but you desire to serve Krishna in a particular way, and then you mix it up somehow with some material desire and you ask for material benedictions, or think that you need something material in order to fulfill that spiritual desire, then Krishna will help you to adjust it. Satyam dishiti artito nirnam. Satyam dishiti artitam artito nirnam. Naivartato yat punar artito yata. Swayam vidate bhajatam anichatam ichapitanam nijapada padlavam. Krishna notices that you're asking for stupid things. And he says, you may be stupid, but I'm not stupid. I will give you what you're asking for, but in such a way that you won't ask for it again. And instead, I'll give you my lotus feet to serve. So Krishna is very expert like that.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
I was wondering, when we pray to Krishna that I want maybe another person in your family who has to become a devotee, but if that person doesn't have that wish, even though we might be praying, how does that work? Because you just mentioned that Krishna will fulfill our desire. So I'm confused about, because you see that he or she doesn't have a sincere desire to actually surrender.
Well, first of all, we can't force anyone to become a devotee. And nor does Krishna do that. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu nami dveshostina priya, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. There's a way in which Krishna, did I blow that verse? Samoham sarvabhuteshu nami dveshostina priya, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. I think that's correct. So Krishna says, I remain neutral, but if you approach me in pure devotional service, then you're in me and I'm in you. It's very natural. Relationship becomes very deep. But he waits for the living entity to surrender. However, devotees are a little more proactive and they try to induce people to become devotees. So your question is, if there is somebody who doesn't have a desire for devotional service and you're praying for them, or anything more than praying, or, well, you see,
chant on a regular basis for 20 days.
How do sages curse people, and how does the curse manifest? There's a way in which the sound vibration that comes from the mouth of a sage then makes an imprint in the universe. And that imprint gets filled in later on. So we're creating future bodies by the same principle. There's a subtle way in which all the senses and all the creations in the universe take place, from subtle to gross. And when somebody very powerful speaks the words and says, you should die in 7 days, and then that takes a form in the universe, and then it fills in, and the material nature accommodates that situation. To give an example of that we can understand in daily life, that there is such empowered speech. A judge may say to somebody in a summary judgment, okay, I dismiss the case. I've decided to dismiss the case. And then she hits her gavel on the little table, and then bang, it's over. The case is finished because she spoke it from that position. And so it's very powerful. So devotees can give blessings, and these kinds of things have an influence on people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to surrender, because they may or may not. Nonetheless, in the Madhurya Kadambini, is mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that by the strong speech and teachings of an advanced devotee, people can change. They hear it, and then because of the power of that speech, it changes their heart. They say, okay, I changed my decision. I'm not going to stay in the material world after all. I give up. I'm going to go with these people. And that's why we do it. We take the time to go out and tell people, hey, you over here, stop it. Put that down. Look at this. Read this. Hear this. Come with us. Take this prashadam. And then they go, all right, I quit. I'm coming with you. It's a better idea. I admit it. Their hearts can change by the power of the mantra. So the goodwill of devotees is very important. And then also to give them opportunities to do devotional service can be very helpful also. Okay, so anonymous. This is dangerous, reading anonymous questions. You never know what's going to be. But before that, we have Bhakti Ramakrishna Haribol. Bhakti Ramakrishna says, how can I become humble genuinely? Well, first Narada Muni says in the Srimad-Bhagavatam that you should practice in body, mind, and words being humble. And you'll notice, Trinadapi Suni Chena Toror Ivasu Hishnuna says one should be ready to offer respects to all those. Means get yourself ready before you go out the door. Yeah, I'm going to offer all respects to others. Prepare yourself for that and practice it. The practice of humility is helpful. So as you practice and you experience the awesome quality of Krishna through the holy name. In fact, I was reading a couple of days ago the Kevala Namashtakam, and in it the author, who I believe is anonymous, says that when I chant the holy name and I experience the awesomeness of the name, that I see that Lord Brahma or an ant, or both are they're equally significant. Everything becomes insignificant in comparison to the name. There's an overwhelming experience that one has, and one feels humble. One of the reasons that I don't feel humble is I'm absorbed in ahankar, and I think I'm the doer, and then I'm very smart. And when we see, actually, I'm not the doer, I'm helpless, and that's reality, then it's natural to become humble. In the beginning, we should practice, however, because it's one of the elements through which knowledge enters into our mind and heart. As Krishna mentions in the Gita, 13th chapter, 8th verse, he says, Amanit vamadam vipam. Humility and pridelessness are the first steps to actually getting true knowledge and being able to see the difference between oneself and the body. Okay, here comes rolling the dice on this anonymous question. Dare I even read it? Here it is. We just read that devotional service with fruit of benefits is mixed with bhakti. Does that mean we should never pray to Krishna for material requests to survive in this material world? Surviving in the material world for a pure devotee and praying for survival is not outside the realm of pure devotional service. You'll find this in the Nectar Devotion and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and the commentaries on those by Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. They say that in the process of performing pure devotional service, if you make a prayer, please protect my body, please protect my family, and so forth, it's not outside the realm of pure devotional service. And the reason is you need your body and the surroundings you're in right now in order to continue. It's very difficult to without a natural condition of life, as Prabhupada mentions in the story of Gajendra, to do your devotional service. So, dharmasya hyapavargasya nartar toyo upakalpate nartasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Did all the pundits on there get that one? You remembered it, Monisha? Yes? Kind of? Okay, good. This verse says that material gain should never be used for sense gratification. When you get material gain, use it to engage in Krishna service. So devotees think like that, and therefore whatever they have, they're using in Krishna service. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambande yuktam vairagyamujjate prapanchikatarya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshi Mumukshabi parityagyo vairagyam palugu katyate. In fact, if you have things and you neglect to use them in Krishna's service and you renounce them artificially, this is known as palugu vairagya. It's not very good renunciation. So devotees are engaged in this yukta vairagya, and therefore if they say, oh, Krishna, please protect me, my family, it's not outside the realm of pure devotional service. Although devotees like Gajendra note when they're giving their prayers, Gajendra says in his prayers, you'll notice, my Lord, I know really pure devotees don't ask for anything. But I need a little help here. I have a crocodile on my leg. And Kardama Muni says a similar thing when he's praying. He says that generally pure devotional service, pure devotees don't ask for anything, but I need a wife. So he asks. But they're all considered pure devotees. Then we have Bhaktarohit, who says, the one theme I really liked is a reflection about this chapter we read is that the Supreme Lord is not satisfied with just being accepted as the majestic Supreme Commander of all beings. Instead, he's eager to be in a loving, friendly relationship with his devotees and also to be in a subordinate position. This just struck me as a gigantic display of his causeless mercy on the conditioned souls that are, as you say, getting cooked alive in this material world. And so, yeah, this is one of the places we find within Prabhupada's books where we'll notice the nuance of a Vaishnava philosophy. There are many, there are several major religions of the world, Christianity, Islam, there's Buddhism and so forth. And in them, there's a concept of loving God. And there are many very important emotions and sentiments and ways of praying to God. Muslims pray to God 5 times a day. It's very nice. They're doing Vandanam. And Christians have this sense that God's in their heart and the goal of life is to develop a pure love for God and so forth. And it's a natural sentiment for human beings. Ahara nidra bhaya maitanam cha samanyametat purusha purana. There's a way in which samanya, if a human being doesn't have that sentiment, the Shastra says that he or she is no better than an animal, because they both do those things. And that's the same in animals and humans. So unless a human being has this idea that I want to worship God one way or the other, whatever the motivation is, Krishna says, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jignasa artarti jnanicha bharatarshaba. 4 kinds of pious men render service to me. And then he says, Udaraksarva evaite jnani tvapvaya mame matam astitas tahiyuktatma mamevan utamangatim. They're all magnanimous souls, but one who's in knowledge of me completely is the most dear to me. So there are gradations of understanding our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And many of the religions of the world, as I mentioned, there's a general concept of being obedient to God, loving God and so forth in different ways. Oftentimes when you get into those particular religious philosophies, you'll find that those who are studying it more deeply or practicing it more deeply, not just occasionally or as an add-on to their lives, have a deeper understanding of it. There may be a deeper understanding that some have, and there may be various sects within the major religious groups. However, as the author of Caitanya-Caritāmṛta says, if you want to use your intellect properly, then study the teachings of Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu and understand what he's saying about a relationship with the Supreme. And here is an example of how it's very, not different, but how it's deeply rendered in understanding that we do have there are varieties of relationships we have with God. Many of these religious traditions don't reveal the form of God. There's a hesitancy to say the name of God or reveal the form of God, partly because of the feeling that I'll commit offense if I do, because it's so sacred if I say it. Prabhupada confirmed this, that's one of the reasons we follow we're careful about making any of the 10 offenses, because we don't want to offend the Lord when he appears. Oftentimes that gets carried over and people don't even know why they won't discuss whether God has a form or not, or whether the name is all powerful. You find that that's gone into very carefully or very deeply in the Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, and this idea that there are deeper and deeper relationships with the Lord. And of course, this is what's being said here. Anarpita charim chirat karana yavatir nakalao samar payitumanatu jwala rasam sabhakti shriyam. That the Lord thought, I haven't really revealed this to the world. Who else is going to know about it? And it's also not true that human beings can't understand this. It's a fallacy to think, why would the Creator make a creation that couldn't understand him? And actually, in our scriptures, it is said, Tato Brahma Jignasa, hey, wake up. Now you got the opportunity. You ask about the highest thing, you'll get to understand it. You have full facility now to understand this. And so when these Vaishnava scriptures come, they give this very satisfying nuance of understanding that there are deeper and deeper relationships with God. Anarpita charim chirat karana yavatir nakalo samar payitumuna tojwara rasam sabhakti shriyam hari purata sundara dyuti kadamba sandipita sadaraya kandare spuratu vas sachinandana. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to reveal this. And, what's the revelation? Just what you said here, that there is a realm in which the Lord is worshipped by his devotees with unceremonious love, even irreverent. This was intuited by Uttara. You'll find in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Uttara, when speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, you see Shukadeva Goswami gave the Bhagavatam. He spoke the whole Bhagavatam. And then Uttara was present in that assembly, but she didn't hear everything. They didn't have, I guess, some Bose speaker system. And she came to her son. There was an intermission. I mean, the speaking of the Bhagavatam was finished, and the time for him to be bitten by this snake bird was nigh. And therefore she came and said, tell me, give me the summary. I want to hear this. So the summary of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. And when she's asking her questions, you'll notice one of the a very intuitive questions she asks is, there are devotees that have a very special kind of affection for Krishna. It's not ordinary. It's not like anything we've seen before. It's very intimate. Therefore, she said, there must be a special place for this devotion to be enacted. There must be a special realm for this. Please tell me about that. So this is what we're hearing now from Kaviraj Goswami, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, that he specifically came to reveal what that realm is. Goloka namni nijadamni chaleta tasya devi mahesha harirama suteshu teshu. There are different realms of consciousness. Om bhur bhuva swa tat savitur. This idea, Om bhur bhuva swa. In this material world, there are levels of there are realms that accommodate the different conscious levels of the beings that are here. As they develop, they're given a specific realm. You look up that word realm, somebody. It's a really interesting word, realm. Please look it up in the dictionary and also in the etymological online dictionary, the realm. Hare Krishna. And this is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Yasya prabha prabhapato jaganandakoti koti shrishesha vasudhari vibhuttibhinam ta brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam govindamari purusham damaham bhajami. That the Lord has created unlimited varieties of realms. Why? To accommodate every kind of living entity, just as he's given 8,400,000 species of life. Why? To accommodate the various desires of the living entity. I want to be a hummingbird. And it's a very specific kind of bird. And there are many other specific kind of birds, millions of them that you can try out. And there's millions of realms that you can try out. Realm, by the way, we have from Priya Kishori, she gives us a kingdom, and part gives us kingdom from Old French, Riome. Where's, let's see, Chichile Kasaki, how do you pronounce this in French? Riome, from Old French. Do you know Old French? Probably from Riome kingdom, altered by influence of Latin, regal. A royal domain, kingdom, the realm of England, a region, sphere, or domain within which anything occurs, prevails, or dominates. The realm of dreams, the special. Did anybody look at, here it is. Okay. Look at REG from Proto-Indo-European. Proto-Indo-European root meaning move in a straight line with derivatives to direct in a straight line. Sanskrit, a leader, a king, a leader. Raj, cognate with Raj. That someone who presides over a particular place. Okay, that's good. So the idea is that there are unlimited realms provided for all the living entities according to their nature and their consciousness. And the highest realm is attained by those who engage in this Raga-nuga Bhakti. The Raga-nuga Bhakti means Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasiniyoja tishtam vraje tananuragi jananugami kalam nayed akilamityupadesha saram. The essence of all advice for humans is that one should engage one's full time in hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Nectar Devotion, the books Prabhupada gave us. Then we'll develop through that extensive hearing and associating with advanced devotees, the desire within our heart to follow in the footsteps of a particular devotee in Raj. And that becomes prominent in our lives. And that's called the Raga-nuga. You're following the Ragatmikas, those who are spontaneously engaged in devotional service in that realm. And when we follow them, their mood, then we become advanced and we enter into that service. And it begins by performing the kind of regulative devotional service that we're doing now, where we are following in the footsteps of the Goswamis of Vrindavan, who gave us certain practices that if we follow strictly will elevate us to the platform of Raga-nuga Bhakti. We're not following rules and regulations for the sake of it, or scriptural rules and regulations so that we can attain to this idea, to this Vaikuntha, very kind of ceremonious type of bhakti. But what we naturally have anyway that we're following, and that is our whole, that is our goal, is taking us in that direction. Yes, Radhakripa Prabhu. Okay, I thought you had your hand up. All right, let's see if there's any other questions from the Zoom room.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So this is an observation that I was making during the japa session as well, and while reading the purports, it was that typically in our life, when we have a situation that warrants us to surrender because we have no other option, I tend to notice that my japa is so much better and with so much higher quality. But I was thinking and wondering how, despite any situation, how do we inculcate in our heart that this material world is like a dukhalayam, or a place of misery on a practical level, and be able to chant always with that sincerity, no matter what the situation is externally.
Well, Krishna says in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Shruti pratyaksham aitiyam anumanam chatustayam pramaneshvarabhastanad vikal patsa virajate. So this verse means that Shruti, you should listen to Shruti to understand the temporary nature of the world. Anavashtanad, anavashta means to be steady, and anavashtanad means the unsteady nature of the material world. And he's saying cannot be understood, or you should try to understand it from these four sources. The first one is Shruti, pratyaksham. Second one is direct evidence. You should see from direct evidence. If you just walk around the world, you'll notice that the world is a temporary place. Anything can happen at any minute. Nirkula and I were just walking through the park last week, Washington Park. We cross through it every day when we go on our walk. And just as we turned the corner the other day, there was a whole family, or a group bigger than a family. It was a lot of picnickers sitting under a tree. And just as we turned the corner, a gigantic branch just decided to come off the tree and fall on the picnickers. And one of them was killed. Actually, a man was killed, and a dog was killed, and a couple of them were severely injured. And it was just something Krishna revealed to us. So this is pratyaksham. You can just observe the environment of the world, that at every minute there's something happening. Don't ignore it, he's saying. You take this evidence in pratyaksham anuman, and also take the logical idea that everybody you know in history has died, so you're going to die too. Navastana. And then itiyam. Itiyam means that information that's passed down word of mouth from one generation to the next. So he said, take all this in as evidence that the material world is a temporary place. And then vikalpatsa virajate means because of this, now you should stay a little detached yourself. So don't be unaware of it. Don't tune it out. He said, notice it and see, okay, yeah, it's temporary. And I should remain a little detached. So one thing you can do is when you start to chant your japa, as an example, you can remember these things, that this world's very temporary, and remember how helpless you are. And instead of waiting for a time when danger is present, you can transport yourself to reality and say, look, I'm hanging by a thread. I remember one time I went to Rath Yatra in Los Angeles. I guess we drove down there. And I got out of the car, and Savas was there waiting for us on the sidewalk. I offered my obeisance. I said, how's it going? He goes, hanging by a thread. You could write a song about it. We're all hanging by a thread. Or there's the sword of Damocles. You can look that one up. Sword of Damocles, that's, the idea was that this person, there's sword hanging over, I don't know the exact details, but the idea is there's a sword hanging over our head. It can drop at any second, just like a tree branch can come down. Anything can happen. So if I remember that, vikal patsa virajate, and be a little detached from the world. Don't think that it's going to be here forever. And chant, knowing, could all go up in smoke at any second. The material world's always transforming. In fact, there are different ways in which the material world's destroyed. And there are cataclysms that happen at the end where there's a huge destruction of the universe. And then as described in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, which you know very well, Prikishore, because I think you narrated the whole thing, there's also what's described as continuous destruction. It's always being destroyed. In case you haven't noticed, everything falls apart. So be aware of it and see what's happening. Radhakripa Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, I think continuing to the Priyakshori's question, to further up, once you get that feeling that this word is temporarily, then to stay focused on your, the work which you have to do for your livelihood, it sometimes becomes little disheartening, or you are not able to go with the same energy, because, if that goal which you wanted to achieve, you feel, oh, this word is like that, it's going to happen anytime. I'm not going, let me take it not that seriously, the work which I have to perform to maintain myself. So I was just thinking how to balance that understanding with one which you explained about Priyakshari, which actually made much logical sense, but how I can be more focused on the activity which I have to perform, which seems mundane sometimes, especially the office work or which you have to do.
Well, then when you do your work, our acharyas say, and Prabhupada quotes this in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you should think this is work allotted to me by Krishna. You should think this is the world, and I'm doing it for the Lord. So think of it as your service that you're doing right now. And also he said, give a portion, of course, this is something you're already doing, but give a portion of your income to spread Krishna consciousness, give it away. That way, when you're working, you're also thinking, oh, I'm working for Krishna. So you're conscious of it. And of course, sometimes, like somebody's a billionaire and then they're turn 80, 90 years old and they're still thinking, I have to make more money. This is a kind of an affliction. I can't let go of the material world. So we should be practicing throughout our lives, even as we do have to do our duty to maintain something, a household or something. At the same time, we should be cultivating this idea that this isn't going to last very long. And whatever arrangement Krishna makes, I'm going to be ready to move into that other arrangement, because it is going to change. And it's very unseemly. Look at Dhritarashtra. He didn't get ready for that. And it was a very unseemly situation where Vidura had to come and said, come out of this now. You're being fed like a dog in the house of those you tried to kill. It's a pathetic situation. So we shouldn't get caught in that pathetic situation either. That's why there's this divestment from the world that takes place internally, even as one's accumulating wealth and so forth, and then practically as one gets older, because the actuary charts will tell us that the chances of dropping dead at any minute increase every day you get older. So you should not be caught unawares. Get ready for it, and try to adjust your lifestyle to it by associating with advanced devotees and taking the instruction of Shastra. That's why there are these 4 ashramas with the brahmachari, where you get used to the idea that, well, I really don't need anything to be happy. I just need service. And then you become a grihasta and you learn how to cooperate with another person in devotional service and use your things in devotional service. And then at vanaprastha, you learn to just sort of be much more renounced and not depend on any particular thing to maintain you. And then sannyas, which means that you're dead to the world. Maranam before smaranam. Like you commit civil suicide, basically. Like, that's it, I'm out completely. I signed the sheet. I got nothing more to do with the world. So that's varnashrama, and it's all meant to bring us to that point. So we should be practicing at all levels to come to that position. What do you think?
Krishna.
Pramay, do you agree with that assessment? Yes, he agrees. Okay. We'll take one more because we just have 1 minute. Oh, we'll take 2 more because Prem Prabhu is there.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Go ahead, Prem, and then we'll take Sukeshri.
Oh, thank you very much. So yeah, that makes me remember when you say that I have an old friend that he used to say something because he was engaged in some, hallucination substance and that things. And one time he said that he realized that everything is like stick with Scotch tape. You use that, like everything that in any moment something can blow wind or whatever, and he fell and can fall down. And also makes me remember what you said, that we must ask all the time, what's the best thing that I must do in this moment? So
Yes. What's the best use of my time right now? And keep coming back to that, no matter, where we stray to, keep coming back to it. Thank you. The Scotch tape really, was a good imagery. Thank you very much, Prema.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Dhanvari Dasi.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Dhanavari.
Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I have a question. When you mentioned in the morning in Japa session that when we ask for, when we are chanting, we ask for more services, and if Krishna gives us more services, if he cannot handle it, or and then I also want to know if the chanting is service, or what service means, only temple service or anything, or two questions I have.
What a good question. Our first service is chanting. Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabavid Grayam Indre Sevan Mukhi Jivado Swayam Eva Spuratyada. All devotional service begins Jihwa Adhau. It begins with the tongue. So chanting Hare Krishna is our first service. So that's why we do it first in the day. Finish it, do it well. And then everything else becomes possible. And if all else fails, chant Hare Krishna and everything else will fail. So just chant it first and make that your main thing. You got to keep the main thing. The main thing is to keep the main thing, the main thing. And that's the main thing, is chanting Hare Krishna. Because out of all the 64 items of devotional service, there are 5 that are extremely potent. And out of those, there's one that completes all of them, and that's the chanting of Hare Krishna. It's the means through which we are able to go back home, back to Godhead. So that comes first. And then if you get service that's too much for you, you can slightly adjust it or adjust it accordingly. You just have to have... you have to be aware of staying balanced throughout your life, and in different phases of your life, make sure that you're connected to service. It's really important to have some service that you can perform to connect and feel like you've got a way to engage your senses, Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, and it'll expand, and adjust it according to how you can stay steady in your practice of devotional service. And Prabhupada mentions that in the Gajendra Mokshana. He says that everyone should live in a natural condition of life. That is, so you can feel strong when you're doing your devotional service. You're not getting weak. You're not burning your brain out like one of those things where too much electricity comes through and then all of a sudden sparks start coming out and you become catatonic. Don't become catatonic. Stay strong, balance your life. Make sure that you eat very healthy Prashadam. Make sure that you exercise, because there are all kinds of mechanisms and chemicals in your body that have to be balanced in order for you to do your services. So you have to do all that. And then make sure that you have a healthy amount of service so that you're pushing yourself a little bit, but not too much. And all that, you can get through good guidance. Sukeshri, did you have a question?
Prabhu, Manjula also had a question, Prabhu. I'll let her.
Oh, Manjula Kanta.
Actually, Guru Maharaj, I was thinking about this concept of chanting, and how even though we do have chanting and we're told that chanting is the center, we have this deep resistance to accepting that, and then we always keep trying to find a solution, and it takes a lot of effort to get to the point where saying, you know what, I'm just going to chant. Acceptance. I was thinking about your statement on humility, that, Trinada Pisonichina, which you were saying in the middle of the class. And I wanted to say that even though it's just a single sentence, and when we learn it and memorize it, we think we understand it. Everything that in the Shikshashtakam takes a lifetime to understand. I was thinking how humility is there in so many things, that you have the humility to accept you can't do it much, you have the humility to ask for help, you have the humility to recognize that you can't do it alone. So it kind of encompasses so many other things that one another piece of nature.
Thank you for that. And regarding your first point, frustration is the doorway to enlightenment. It's very important to become frustrated. In fact, that's where I do all my best work. And when I get totally frustrated and I say, all right, that's it. I mean, I'm starting over, and I'm gonna, no more show bottle, because this show bottle idea, you can be doing it to yourself. For instance, in writing, this has to be perfect. I have to do this. And it's very difficult to write or do anything under those circumstances. When you just say, look, I have to do it from my heart. And I become frustrated. Like, okay, I'm not something else. I can't be anything that what I am. And I'm just going to do it as sincerely as possible. That's a point frustration can bring us to. Enough's enough. And now I'm just going to try the way Krishna said to try, no embellishment, just from the heart. And so getting frustrated, you'll notice that every breakthrough in the Bhagavatam is preceded by some huge traumatic frustration or event. Like Chitraketu, he broke down. Like, you can't imagine a more dramatic breakdown that Chitraketu had. I mean, whenever I read that, how his son, the prince, was poisoned by his by his wives, and that when he found out about it, after his life's dream to have a son was immediately smashed, then he couldn't remain conscious. He was so overwhelmed. He would faint. And when he noticed the situation, he'd faint again. I mean, can you relate to that? I know I can. I mean, it's just like material life is so painful. And you look at it again and again, it's like, I can't handle it, And that's the point at which Narada and Angira came and said, all right, now let's talk, So this point, when we become frustrated in our lives and our practice, and then it's good, we should come to this point. It's like, all right, enough's enough. I remember my friend Dave Dibbern when I was a kid. This always reminds me, he wanted to learn how to play the flute. He was a musician. And I remember one summer night, he came over to our house. My brother Tom and I were there, and he knocked on the front door, and we were shocked because he had shaved all his hair off. And which was a big thing back then. Nowadays, Hare Krishna's made shaved heads popular. But back then, hair was like, the length of your hair was a status symbol. So he comes to the door, he goes, that's it, I've had enough. And he's like, why'd you shave your head? It's like, I'm fed up with myself. I'm going to learn the flute and no more nonsense. He's like, I'm sick of my my laziness and everything. I shaved my head and I'm going to practice every day, And he actually got good at the flute, but I always remember that mood. He's like, he knocked on our door and burst in with a bald head and said, now I'm going for it. I just think of that. All right, enough messing around. I'm going to chant good rounds. I'm going to really do it now. And sometimes when people ask me about my shaved head, I think of Dave Dibbern. It's like, I'm in. I'm all the way in. That's why I cut off my hairs, because I've had enough. Enough's enough. I'm following the Dave Dibbern method here. So now we should have the Guru Puja for Srila
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Namashishtam manamapi shachiputram atrasarupam Shirupam tasya grajam urupari maturim goshtavatim Radha kundam girivaramoho radhika madhavasham Prapto yasya pratita kripaya shriram tam tatosmi He Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Swanandadata Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahitavatara Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara He Dinabandho Karunaika Sindho Kuru Prasadam Mayimanda Mudhe Lakshaparadhe Bahupapakare Tatparapati Sutishtamse I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund at Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is an affection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us a shade for the lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Shri Guru Charana Padma
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Shri Krishna Hari Hari Hari
Shri
Bol.
Harinam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Shri Harinam Mantra ki
Jai.
Shri Harinam Prabhu ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanande
Hari Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Haribo!
Haribo!
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivradikacharya Stotra Shishima Apai Charanada Vindavaktivedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivradikacharya Stotra Shishima Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Śrī Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhara Śrīvasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokopina Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadiptam Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Now we have announcements from Malini and from Jai Madhava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
My
Prabhu,
obeisance.
Prabhu, this morning I was walking outside Prabhu, and there was a small dog, but very chubby. As soon as the owner opened the door, it came running outside, and the owner, 3 of them were actually trying to catch the dog, but it was just running from here to there, and they were somehow trying to get the dog back inside to the door. I was just thinking how all of us in this material world are just trying to get free from this other obligations, other commitments, other so many things, but somehow we are forced to go back into that door inside. But how the Sankirtan or book distribution can actually help us to free ourselves from permanently and then do actually what we want to do. So I was just thinking how important it is for us to distribute those 2 million Gitas around the world so that we can give some relief to ourselves as well as to the others, Prabhu. So
I thought you were going to say that the owners of the dog bought a case of Gitas.
Prabhu will give them, Prabhu. We can
Yes,
give them.
they must have a case.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, yeah, the 2 million worldwide. It's really important that the world gets it right now. Yeah.
Prabhu, would you like to say something more about
I'd
that?
just like to say that I've been having this realization now that this is the most important time not to waste. And it's just that what it makes of us to rise to the occasion now that we have this pandemic, to take full advantage of it. I think it's the greatest gift we've ever been given to move us forward individually and as an organization, and globally as an organization, locally as an organization and globally. To take full advantage of this means that as we're given these peculiar circumstances, there's great advantages through which, by taking, we rise to the next level, a quantum leap, in fact, and it's happening. But it may be over soon, so we don't want to miss it. I mean, it could be over in the next 6 months or a year, and that's a time in which we could actually really rise to a higher level in our own practices and what to speak in book distribution. Somehow or other, we're doing better than we have before. And actually, North America is doing well too. A lot of it has to do with what's coming out of ISV, but I think that we should spread that spirit in North America and all over the world, so that every devotee can experience that there is no material circumstance that can hold us back if we make a blueprint for expansion and we think about it really carefully, and then we execute it with precision, methodically. And Lord Chaitanya will come with his hard hat on, and he'll fill in the rest for us if we do that work painstakingly. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhu, I also wanted to share some news that Ananga Gopika Mataji and Mukharavinda Prabhu, after they saw this goal of 2 million Gitas, they just sent a message yesterday that they wanted to send 200 Gitas to one address, and they Ananga Gopika and Mukharavinda Prabhu are sponsoring those 200 Gitas. So that is our first beginning for this marathon.
Haribo! Always good to be on the cutting edge.
And also Sirisha Mataji sent a message this morning saying that she has a goal for that 2 million Gitas, and she sent me a bunch of questions on how should I do it? What is my strategy? Can you please help me to come up with a strategy, and a bunch of questions. So I saw that she has a desire to take a cut out of that and then distribute herself. So I felt that was so encouraging for me also Prabhu.
Well, because of the way that your voice broke up in the middle, it sounded as if she had vowed to do 2 million Gitas, which is nice because
Prabhuji, she said she didn't. Her goal is still yet to be ratified, but she wants to take a cut at 2 million somehow. I
see. Okay.
Yeah. And some devotees are still going out. Last week, devotees went out to Muir Woods, and they stood at the table, and people were just coming to the table to get the books. And Kautukarna Prabhu and team also went to Madras Cafe, and they had good results there as well, Prabhu.
Wow, congratulations. And everyone still be careful when you're out there, okay? It's still going on. I noticed in the map of California, the COVID map, California is as red as you can get.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay. Prabhu will continue with your calling party today at 2 p.m. And that's all, Prabhu, for now.
Thank you very much, Malini, for bringing us this big pie called the 2 million, and everyone gets a slice of it. Shesha Mataji taking a slice, Mukharavinda and Ananga took a slice. So everyone can take a slice of this pie, and we can eat to our full satisfaction this service. Hare Krishna. And now we have Jai Madhava Prabhu to tell us the great progress that is coming from the Bhakti community. It's actually stunning. It's making my head spin to watch how it's going. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Sri Prabhupada. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes, we are making great progress, and I wanted to share some of the progress we have made. I'll quickly share my screen if that's okay. For those who are new to Bhakti community is an online spiritual community which intends to inspire hope, heart, and happiness to all the newcomers to ISKCON or Bhakti philosophy. We have a series of programs lined up pretty much on a daily basis. Like Monday we have Bhakti on, Tuesday Bhakti Wisdom, when we have got Thursday we have got Sadhana on, Friday Spiritual Fitness. We do have Discover Yourself lined up to start, mantra music on Sunday, and we are also starting Women's Circle on this coming Sunday, led by Ananda Vrindavan Mataji, as well as various courses we have as well, Wisdom Course Library. So these are the core programs we have on Bhakti community. And the request is whenever you come in contact with any newcomer, either during book distribution or just you're connecting with them after a period of time, please do introduce Bhakti community to them. You can go to bhakticommunity.com/invite newcomers. So this is the URL which gives you an email which you can send it to them, or other instructions. And bhakticommunity.com/discover is currently a program underway which they can use to sign up. So when you go to bhakticommunity.com/invite newcomers, as I mentioned, you will see this document which has a sample email which you can just copy paste as it is, just change the name. It has a nice flyer as well attached. It gives quick videos introducing Bhakti community and this Discover offer that I mentioned, which is currently underway specifically for ISV, which allows anyone to register for Bhakti community free for first 3 months. And when you go to bhakticommunity.com/discover, you will get to a form like this, which is what they will reach, the newcomers, which will give an overview of what Bhakti community is. And they can also use this to sign up for some of the upcoming program. For example, Bhagavad Gita Women's Circle, which is beginning tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Pacific. This is for all women and girls who are newcomers to Bhakti or ISKCON. They can join in, and it will be a very interactive session where how Bhagavad Gita's philosophy can be applied on a daily life, in particular focusing on women. In addition, we also have Discover Srimad-Bhagavatam and Discover Yourself program lined up. The response has been very good. So far, we have, as you can see, 40 responses already. So 40 people have signed up. So this is pretty exciting. As you can see, there are so many newcomers joined. And we'll leave it open for maybe for very short more time, maybe another week or two. Once we have sufficient responses, this limited opportunity will go away. So please do share this with anyone who you know might benefit from this program, and also definitely do share it whenever you go out for Sankirtan and you distribute books. So that is Discover program. If you have any questions, do email hi@bhakticommunity.com. In addition, as you know, we also have the Bhakti community cards available. So which is both the digital copy as well as physical copy is available. So whenever you're going to book distribution, please let me know. I can share it with you, or I can ship it to you as well if you are remote. Please add it whenever you give a book. Please add it with that. And lastly, is the Bhakti community Facebook page. This is where every week, whatever programs which happen, you can go to facebook.com/Bhakti community. If you go there, as you can see the URL, facebook.com/Bhakti community, you can see all the what the youths of Bhakti community do is every week they create and take gems out of the programs, 2-3 minute clips, and they post it. And that is really very beneficial. You can share with your friends and families so that they can slowly get introduced. As you can see, active ingredients of life for happiness. This is a very popular viral video right now. It's already reached 90,000 views so far. So 90,000 people have watched it. It introduces that how spiritual practice is the foundation for happiness in life. So if you have not already shared, please share it with your friends and family. And also, of course, forgot to mention, do like this page and share it with your friends and family so others can also keep in touch with all those gems which are being added to this on a weekly basis. This week, we did add the Bhakti Community Spiritual Fitness Program. We also, Niharika added this nice clip, how to prevent fall down in spiritual life. It was a very popular program in Sadhana on this week. So that's a 3-minute clip which was added. Please like and share this. And also Anushri added this elevate to spiritual sound. So it's a very nice clip, how if you elevate to spiritual sound instead of material sound, how it takes you out of miseries. So those are some of the gems which I posted this week. Please do share with your friends and families and help us share with Bhakti community with as much as possible. So those are the quick updates I had for this week. If you have any questions, please email hi@bhakticommunity.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Anything more you would like to add as well?
Yeah, more people have joined last week in Bhakti community. They're coming in by the dozens now, joining in. And also many other communities around ISKCON are joining the Bhakti community program. It's a franchise because of the painstaking care that JM and his team have taken to create the infrastructure for this. Lots of other devotional communities around ISKCON are eager to take advantage of it. And so far, Australia is joining, Alachua, Florida. Now, what other community?
We are connected with San Diego next week.
San Diego.
Yeah.
And then many more will come. So it's something cooked up in the ISV laboratory, and it's going out around North America and the world. So it's another exciting victory.
Yeah.
Thank you, JM. And
Thank
everyone,
you so
please bring people to put them in Bhakti community. It's a program through the development of which we'll be able to expand our outreach significantly. We'll get more and more devotees engaged and giving classes there and connecting with people all over the world. And it'll create a kind of stability in our community on the digital platform. So put the utsahan factor into this program. Also, I'd like to mention that again, on the World Sankirtan newsletter, if you hadn't noticed, ISKCON of Silicon Valley is #1 in the world. We've beaten Delhi again. What to speak of everybody else? I mean, #1 means #1. For overall temples in August, we're on top by a long shot. Of course, LA is nipping at our heels because they figured out that we passed them up a few years ago, and I don't think they like sitting down there. So stay on your toes and keep it flowing out. It was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's program to distribute. Be crazy about this. Be safe, but be crazy. They went wild with the tasting and the distribution of the love of God. So give it out. As many people, you can be as wild as you want. Just go for it with abandon. There's not much time left in this life. It's a puny little life. We're just passing through. So cash in now. Become spiritual billionaires. You're in Silicon Valley. You might as well become a spiritual billionaire, or wherever you may be. Buenos Aires is a good place for it too. Chicago. Spiritual billionaires by distribution, planning. Use your brain. Make sure it's running fast to develop, and bring more and more people into Bhakti community, because then we'll have a bigger pipeline. You'll see it'll get bigger. It'll get 10 times bigger, and we'll be able to do 10 times the book distribution and everything else we want to do. Hare Krishna. Now we're going to sing the prayers for Prashadam, because that's our favorite song in the whole world. It's my favorite song. Sharirat Vijaja Jodendriyat Paheka Jibe Pele Vishaya Sagare Tarmadhi Jihvayati Yogamui Sudurmati Take Jita Samsare Krishna Vada Doyama Gori Bhare Jivada Swaprasadana Dilopa Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunata Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta Caitanya
Svapurnyavatam rajan Vishvaso naivajayate Prasade sarvabhuttanam Amyasyopajaayate Prasanna chintaso vyasu Buddhi paryavatishate Tvayopa bhukta shraddhanda Vasulankara charchita Uchishta bhojino dasa Stava mayam jayemahi
Bhagavan Shri Mahaprashada ki
Jai.
Gaura Premanande
Hari Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol,
Pancakes for everybody.
Hari Bol.
Vanchagopdurvisha Kripasinnavevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Can everyone please unmute and say Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama. Hare Krishna.
Premanande Hari Hari
Hari Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hare Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare
Krishna.
I go to Hari Bol.